March 5th, 2026, and we're in Donald A. Russell Meeting Room. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Town Manager, will read the call the roll call. Yes.
Michael Labby,
I am here.
Ann Callahan,
That's it.
Roland Tufts,
Here.
David Kenny,
Here.
and Ryan Holmes.
Also here.
Okay,
All are present and the town manager's at the head table with them.
good thing. All right, next up, Town Manager's report.
Our posted roads are now in effect. They are Winter Street from River Road from Main Street to the White House Crossing Road, Cat Ants Road, Tedford Road, Meadow Cross Road, Ward Road, West Merrill Road, and Forsyth Road from Townsend Way to Middlesex Road. If a heavy truck needs to travel it, contact our Public Works Department. There's a possibility of a permit early in the morning on days when the road freezes overnight. The preceding message was sponsored by the History Committee. History Committee wants you to know, be a Topsham time traveler, volunteer today. If you love history, old treasures, or the smell of ancient paper, join the Topsham History Committee and help preserve our town's past with archives dating back to 1787. Here's the scoop. It's 4 hours per month to log, organize, and digitize historical treasures. No experience is needed, just curiosity and a love for stories. Perks include handling fascinating artifacts and connect with fellow history buffs. Help bring Topsham's past into the future. Volunteer today. Your 1787 self would approve. So after that advertisement, we want to thank the History Committee. You may have noticed in our lobby that for years we had a firefighting display, and they put that display away, and now they have one they call Topsham at Home, which is artifacts that you would have found in homes at Topsham's at different places in the past. So thank you to the History Committee for putting that together and take some time to look at it. And that's it.
Great. All right, up next, we have board and committee reports and updates. Tonight we have a presentation for People Plus. Stacy.
Hello, good evening. Good evening. I'm Stacy Frizzle Edgerton, the Executive Director at People Plus, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for receiving me this evening. And I have to give a thanks and a shout out to all of the People Plus members that are here. Apparently Charlie Evans, who was a former chair of the board, sent out an email to the entire Highland Green community and invited them here tonight to show their support for the organization. And the Highlands too. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. So it's nice to see everybody. I am a resident of Bowdoin, but I own a house here in Topsham. I've owned a property here since 2002. I currently own a house down in the Heights on Union Street, and I'm happy to call Topsham home in a lot of ways, especially because we have so many People Plus members that live in Topsham. So your bags are not really a swag bag, just so you know. There's information in it. If you want to pull out any of the data that I'm going to run through you right now to reference it, you're welcome to do so. Or just save it for, really fun future reading. We are entering our 50th anniversary for People Plus. So if you are not familiar with People Plus, we are a community senior and teen center program. We're located in Brunswick, and we serve the greater Brunswick area, Brunswick residents, Harpswell residents, Topsham residents, Bowdoinham. We have some in Durham, West Bath, and pretty much so all of Saginaw County, and a lot, big chunks of Cumberland and also Harpswell. And we're honored to do so. The organization was started 50 years ago by a small group of women, basically, who got together. They were playing cards. They wanted to do Meals on Wheels. They literally were calling it Meals on Wheels at the time, and rides for free transportation for people who were unable to drive themselves for whatever reason. They were considered homebound, whether they're legally blind, but they can still live at home and just can't drive. Maybe they have a disability, etc. And that tradition has continued for 50 years. And it really does incorporate a lot of people in our area, many of that you know. So a total membership, the people we serve for People Plus, is over 4,000. We have over 2,000 registered members. We have over 1,000 homebound registered riders. And the other 1,000 makes up people who use the center, their families, a lot of siblings of kids at the teen center, neighbors, etc. So of those say 4,000. In Topsham, we have 444 members that are residents of the town of Topsham and over 200 registered riders who are homebound that we serve with free transportation daily. And we've had over, we have 47 actually registered drivers, which is a great thing. Hey, Jim, you coming in? Jim Blykamp coming in for the meeting. We're on the radio together every Monday, if you don't hear us. So for the last almost 14 years, we've been doing every Monday on WCME.
He says it's his highest rated segment.
It's your highest rated segment. That's hysterical. Well, it's certainly a joy in my life. That's for sure. It's the highlight. I'm not sure it's the highest rated segment of my life, but anyway, it's nice to see you here. Thanks for coming. And I'm sure it's not for me. But anyway, back to Topsham. It's a huge honor for all of us to serve Topsham. And I think it's really important because I know that as we work together as a community to serve our older adults and our youth, it gets harder and harder. So older adults is a growing population for us. We have the highest population in the state of Maine is on the mid coast, which is where we are located. And Maine has the highest per capita percentage of older adults in America. So when you look at that and you boil it down, we've got lots and lots of older adults who move here because the quality of life is fantastic. And they want to, get back to a better way of life. And they choose Topsham, they choose Brunswick, Harpswell, etc. And there are no other senior centers in this area to service them. We're it, which is truly an honor and also a pleasure because we get to partner with towns, with select boards, with town managers, who really help us serve all these folks in a lovely way. As I'm sure you all know, I was about to call you Mark. I was to call you Town Manager Walt. Manager Walt goes way back with the town of Brunswick. And in full disclosure, also has helped me sell one of my houses. So he services lots of people in the area in various ways, did an enormous amount of pro bono work for the organization when we were developing the organization manual and legal documents for People Plus. And I think that's important to state in full disclosure. And of course, we also know former fire officers as well, who may have inspected the People Plus building more than once in their time with the town of Brunswick also. It's lovely, and I mention those things because the first responders, our police, our fire, our EMTs, they come together, both in the town of Brunswick and Topsham and Harpswell to service these folks. We talk on a regular basis with members of the Topsham first responder staff to service our homebound elders. First and foremost, they know exactly who's on our list and we know who's on their list so that we make sure they have rides, they have meals. We drop off prescriptions of pharmaceutical supplies to these homebound elders. And like I mentioned, there's over 200 just in Topsham alone. So it's 1/5 of the people we serve that are homebound reside in Topsham, which is amazing. And it's an honor to do so. We also have not just the riders, but we have members who live in Topsham who come to People Plus to take advantage of our programs. We have classes, exercise, clubs. We serve thousands of meals a month, both free in-house and also for takeaway. The Merry Meeting Gleaners drop off produce every week and people take that home. It's kind of like going to the farmer's market every week. We have paid programming, which you can take a paid class, you can do an art class, we've got a writing club, foreign language club, etc. And over 200 offerings on a weekly basis. And I think it's important to note that a lot of these folks help us to support the other residents in Topsham that are members that can't get to the People Plus Center, can't take advantage of it. So one of the things we try to do is provide a video of all of the programs that we have that are available. So if someone can't get there, they can watch it later through our website, which has proved really valuable, especially with all the snow days we've had this year. And it kind of really took root during the pandemic when folks couldn't get out. We would do all of our exercise classes online, free and open to the global community. All of our FYI and presentations and that sort of thing. And a lot of Topsham residents actually provided videos for us that we've been running online. And that's been really lovely. And because it's free and open to the global community, it kind of attracted a lot of different attention. We actually had an island off the coast of Scotland that was one of our highest rated areas of viewing during the pandemic. It was kind of crazy. And when you look at our sort of our data for that time frame, so it's nice. They really, really liked our exercise classes and Zumba at the center. So anyway, I came just to say hello. and get to know you all. I've been here before. I know that Selectman Kenny was like, I think I've met you before. You've been here and presented. And I raised my family here in Topsham. I did, oh, I'm sorry, maybe it was almost. Okay, got that wrong. I did over 10 years straight at Woodside School with 3 daughters. I put 3 of my kids through Mount Ararat. And I mean, it's where I raised my family. So it's very near and dear to me. And also I think near and dear to a lot of people, some of whom are here represented this evening, who chose to make their home here, but also cross the bridge to take advantage of activities that we have at People Plus. And to take care of those who live here who can't cross the bridge on their own, and we help them get there. So, any questions?
Very impressive.
Well, thank you.
There are a lot of programs, that's for sure. I was just smiling because it says you have 2,000 registered members and how many parking spaces?
Unlimited parking
Unlimited parking.
around the block. Yeah, I think we have 34 actual parking spaces. And it does get crowded. Yeah, you could say, especially with snowbanks that are this high.
Oh, yes, I have thought about
Yeah, so, but if people still find a way and they'll double park sometimes. Parking is an interesting and humorous situation at the People Plus Center sometimes. The ability to park well in the winter when the lines are hard to see is tricky.
How many students are in the teen program?
So the teen center has over 400 registered members, and we get probably an easy dozen from that hops over the bridge and comes from Mount Ararat or MAMS from the middle school or the high school. It's a lower population percentage because it's harder for them to get there, but we certainly serve them with open arms. We also do a pickup, so we have a teen center minivan that does a pickup in the summers in particular. And so we see often a higher percentage in the summer than we do during the school year. There is a bus, it's a little further now. It's called the after school work bus. And it leaves the high school and drives up Federal on the way down to Harpswell. And it will stop on Federal by the Hawthorne School if kids want to get off. And it was like for kids who are working in town or, that kind of thing. So they considered it the work bus. In fact, when I was working in Brunswick and my daughter was at Mount Ararat High School, she would take that bus, get off there and walk to People Plus. And that's kind of how she got home in the afternoons to me, which was interesting. And the teen center has moved from the building at Union Street where People Plus is located to the Coffin School building, which
I
is,
didn't know that.
yeah, which is further out on Barrows. And it's basically next door to the junior high now. So we've seen the usership of the teen center program has doubled actually in the last year. We've gone from about 189 registered team members to over 400
That's good.
just in 1 year, which is amazing.
Location is really important.
Huge. They can come right over after school. Yeah, it's very similar to the Midcoast Youth Center in Bath, which is right next door to the junior high. So it's, a plethora of kids just come over. And we have found that, if you create a program that's warm and welcoming and safe, the kids will flock to it. So I think we would have more kids if we could get a bus in the afternoons, and that could be something that we would talk about.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Any other comments or questions?
So I have a question. We traditionally have not been funded by the town of Topsham, and I'm curious, how do we get on a funding rotation if possible? What is the process to ask for funding?
My understanding is that at this time we are not supporting nonprofits. Is that correct? Are you a nonprofit?
Yes, we are a nonprofit, very deeply nonprofit, non being the keyword.
But we'll just say it all the select programs, get your checkbooks out and send them money.
Oh, well, yes, we take private donations, it's huge, certainly. So we are funded
Which
by,
was part of the theory behind the select board's policy, or is that the town hasn't given money to nonprofits, thinking helps keep taxes down so that people can make their own donations and things.
I understand. So if there are areas in which we could get creative, like a bus to the teen center, for instance, or some sort of transportation that might run folks from the village or from the municipal area or from the Topsham Farm Mall, to People Plus. But things like that might be worth talking about that don't cost the town loads of money. And just start putting our thinking caps on. There are also potential crossovers between rec center and People Plus. I had talked a few years ago, to Jerry. How long did Jerry retire? So it was with Jerry. It's been a while. about some sort of add-on when people registered their kids for sports, for instance, they could check a box to like give $1 to the teen center. You know, that, those little things where people still have the choice on their own. So I don't know, I'm just trying to throw, you know, caution to the wind and bring up the topic of money. But I wanted to put it out there, first of all, so that you know the status, and then also see if there are creative ways to sort of partner on projects or initiatives. Seeing that we serve so many members, and I think they really enjoy it and they would support it. That would be great. So if
And you have the gala and auction coming up too.
we do have the gala and auction coming up. Yes, Music in April is April 11th. It's an in-person dinner gala, and there's a live auction. It's fantastic. Off Their Rockers, our well-known band from Highland Green, has a sponsored table, as well as we currently have 14 other members just of the Highland Green community signed up for seats at the auction. And the online auction goes for the whole month of April, the 1st through the 30th. Has anyone noticed our happy birthday banner? Yeah.
Yes,
Did you see it?
yes, downtown.
Fantastic. A big shout out to Tom Lister on that one. And to Mark.
Yes.
Oh my God, figured manager Walls to support that. And we had a conversation. I said, we were gonna hang a banner to celebrate the 50th. Can we hang it in Topsham also? And I still literally want to say Officer Waltz was very clear that, well, it has to apply for Topsham residents. I said, well, we've got over 400 residents who are members, and then, you know, a couple hundred on the rider program. We all felt like, all right, that applies. We can at a minimum celebrate that it's our 50th, and it's a nice exposure sort of for that. And then we will have a banner to go up to advertise the auction in April.
I usually try and participate in the auction every year.
Thank you.
So I have a question. What is the current membership fee?
It's $50 a year. It's very inexpensive. It went up to 50 for our 50th. And it's one-time fee every year. So we have scholarships as well available for anyone that might be a cost prohibitive factor. And they can do a full, a half, whatever works for them. And all of the programs are free, except for where we pay an instructor. So a paid exercise class are still only $7. So yoga is $7, Zumba is $7. And you can't take yoga, and it's with like high-end, you know, instructors. And then the art class is the other place we pay an instructor, so that's also just $7 for each time you take it.
Thank you so much for your input.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate you. And yeah, enjoy your swag bag. There's a book in there, which is a collection of writer samples from our writers group as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, we have a time for public comment.
Hello,
Evening.
Susan Ray Reeves, 14 Twin Pond Road. I'm here tonight in my capacity as chair of CPIC. The last time I was here, I gave the select board an update. That was the week before Thanksgiving. I wish I were here for the same reason. But I'm here to ask you to protect the town's investment in Project Recode. Why does the town need protecting in terms of its investment in Project Recode? As you've heard from the town manager, there were some things said at the planning board meeting last Thursday that, to my mind, effectively sabotage Project Recode. Chair Span said that he wants to keep the current code as our baseline and to flip it back to CPIC to identify a certain number of things. He didn't specify the number that we could amend. This is not a casual suggestion. It essentially scraps everything we've done so far and continues the patch job that has been our MO for the past many years. His suggestion has enormous and long-lasting negative consequences for Topsham's future. Chair Span also said during that meeting that they were not taking a vote, not even a straw poll. But then he did take such a poll at the end of the meeting. And the way he presented it, and several planning board members signed on, to my horror, was like this. He said that right now, he could not recommend recode to the select board, meaning for the town warrant. This sounds very rational and well thought out, doesn't it? But it's devious. It completely represents the process that we're currently in. Recode is not ready for the planning board's recommendation to the select board. Not too far away, but it's not ready. And to represent it that way is false. What it is ready for is the careful review, discussion, and recommendations for change by the planning board. They have done a little of that. They have held 3 workshops so far on the 2 articles, 2 and 8, that relate to the town center where form-based code is used. So that's an area that's designated for growth, and it's an area where everything is new. So they've done a little bit of that. One of the 3 workshops was for a developer. But from my point of view, our point of view, CPIC, the planning board has struggled to do this. It's been agonizing for us to watch. Chair Span started his section of the meeting last Thursday, the end of the meeting. This wasn't on the agenda. He started by saying that recode has taken too long. You know what? I agree with that. I don't think anybody would disagree. But as vice chair, Scott Libby pointed out, a significant time factor was the change of planning director. CPIC has worked with 4 planning directors and 2 town managers. One of those planning directors individually wasted 6 months. The others were terrific, I have to say. But 2 of those new planning directors had to get up to speed on recode. There's a lot there. They couldn't step into that role as liaison to the committee and get it from day one. It took time. There was a slowdown. These things were beyond our control. I don't see how flipping things at this point, scrapping 5 years of work when we're nearly 85% of the way to our finished product makes any sense. Since this past fall, the ball has been in the planning board's court. They've had a big hand in setting the pace. So let's look at this project. It's true, it's a big project. It's the singular comprehensive response of the Comp Plan Implementation Committee to the vision laid out in the 2019 plan. It addresses most of the 9 big ideas. It is supposed to guide both the select board and the planning board, staff and the town's committees, according to that vision, to the best of our ability. Sometimes incremental change is best. I would be the first to agree to that. But when you have a town code like ours that has not gone through any thorough review, only patch-ups in more than 40 years, I think you need to go big. This is not the first time that information is being put out to the select board or the planning board. It's been a long time since our land use code has had any kind of thorough review. So I'm going to put a little emphasis on this point. Town staff who have worked most closely with our current code describe it, and I mentioned this in my update last time, as a mess. That's in quotes, a mess. Recode, big project, big investment by the town, cleans up the mess. Recode will be far more user-friendly than our current code. It will avoid ambiguity. It fixes errors. It offers clarity to landowners, residents, and developers alike. The select board had an important early role in reviewing the scope of Project Recode. Not all of you were here at that point. That was 2020. The select board unanimously supported the scope, which was laid out clearly in the RFP for consultants to bid on. The consultants were chosen because they had the expertise to do both the town center revisioning using form-based code and the code cleanup beyond town center. And you, the select board, were unanimous in supporting that choice of strategy. We are now at quite a late stage in this process. Why did planning board chair Stan wait this long to upend it? If this effort to flip it prevails, what happens to those 5 years of work and the town's financial investment? What about the will of the more than 600 Topsham residents who shaped the 2019 comp plan? Chair Span's comments actually mischaracterize the proposed code and the process. The current draft is very much open to revisions, and several have been made that he doesn't seem to be aware of, because he runs down quite a few things that he said, these are problems as he sees it. They were. The planning board raised those issues, and CPIC and town staff have made some. I don't know what this is. I hope I didn't break it. Specifically, he talked about these problems that he sees with Recode. He talked about upper village businesses. He mentions the car dealerships being non-conforming. He talks about businesses on Park Drive that are going to be non-conforming. He talks about density in the upper village that he says is now cut in half, making a project designed for across the street prohibitively expensive. All of those statements are not true. I don't know why he didn't know that all of these changes were made, but they were made because we listened. We listened to what the planning board is suggesting and why. So where do things stand now? For several months now, the ball has been in the planning board's court. From our point of view, the planning board is struggling to fulfill its responsibility. And with the comments last Thursday, it seems they're giving up and shifting the responsibility back to CPIC to offer amendments to the current code. I trust that the select board will handle this matter well. As you take it up in your next meeting, please remember, the current code is described by those who know it best as a mess. CPIC recommends that we proceed on the path we're going. The goal, nearly within reach, will give Topsham the code overhaul that will guide us for years into the future. Contrast this with what Chair Span has asked the planning board to approve. More patches on a mess with red lines. They want it to be easy. I sympathize. I really do. For me personally, I have no planning expertise, no professional training in this. It was a very steep learning curve, but it's possible. And the planning board is familiar with land use code. All who have served on CPIC would agree that it's been hard work, but worth it. We want an excellent, modern, user-friendly code that will be good for everyone. It will make life easier for the staff and for the planning board. We have actually said at the very first workshop, 2 years ago at least, to the planning board, this is gonna make things easier for you. In closing, I'd like to say something that may be hard to hear. There is a perception in our town that the planning board favors developers and real estate interests in its decisions. Please know I am not saying those interests are unimportant. They are important. What is all important is the balance. That perception of bias is held by people who have lived in Topsham much longer than I have. And that perception should concern all of us. This is a moment when steps can be taken to reassure Topsham residents who shaped the 2019 comp plan update that their interests are weighed fairly with those of developers and real estate brokers. I cannot be here on March 19th when you're going to have this on your agenda. And I'm glad to provide ahead of that meeting a fuller, even set of remarks that will go to support that agenda. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment? I just wanted to make a comment. You mentioned that.
Did I get back up there?
Sure. You mentioned that this was not on the agenda. Did they actually vote to update the agenda?
No, they did not.
They did not? Okay. So,
Could I just mention, I mean, I appreciated getting an email from the town manager with the link to see exactly that section. And I had to listen to it twice because it's not always easy to hear everything that was said. And I'm assuming that each one of you has listened carefully to it because it's something very.
I actually was in attendance at that meeting. I was here. I was in
Great,
the room.
great.
so
Yeah.
the reason I asked
Yeah.
that is if they did not make an adjustment to the agenda, then they can't have that vote. It wouldn't count.
Sure. But, and I understand that it's going to be on the agenda for the 12th, which is when our next CPIC recode workshop of the planning board was going to be scheduled. Won't be held now, but it will be on the agenda and we will be here. Any other?
Well, I just wanted to ask a question about the charge, because CPIC has definitely had the charge to develop this plan. And how does the planning board fit to their charge? Because they have to reach up, you know, you have to come to us. I'm still willing to hear what you have to say about CPIC. And then the planning board has their charge, and how do those two charges merge?
So the planning, any revisions to our zoning code have to go through the planning board and they have to give an opinion on it. So you would still be the ones to put it on the warrant, but you have to have the planning board's opinion vote not to pass. The thought, and I think in the process that was trying to be engaged in, was that CPIC, we actually had a third draft we paid for, it was like last April or so, that over the summer, CPIC did a lot of work getting it out, getting input, trying to get people's comments in. And then it was get turned over to the planning board towards the end of the summer, so the planning board could then have their workshops, give input. The goal was to have a partnership, so that we could try to have the best possible zoning code that represents a lot of interests. And the thought was the planning board should be able to make suggestions because ultimately we'd like to have a vote not to pass because that gives the best chance of passing a town meeting. And if there's things in the zoning code or the proposed code that the planning board doesn't think doesn't work, then they can say that and say, we don't want to change this zone or we want to do this or that. And so that was the thought, is that this would get workshopped together with both groups and public input and try to have the best possible zoning code so that you folks could then say, let's put this on a town meeting warrant and present it to the public.
So if I understand this correctly, they've had 7 or 8 months to look at this to see if they wanted to make any suggestions to CPIC, but they haven't done that, and now we're deciding that they don't want to go with the CPIC recode?
So they've had a couple workshops. They've had some that were canceled, but planning director Salati tried to put forward. And then come January, she did not try to put any more recode workshops forward because they had some other things that we wanted to get on this year's town meeting warrant. For instance, you may have heard some talk about the towing business that tried to go in over on, or did go in on Union Street, Union Park Drive. They had to go through a lot of, engineering costs and things, which when you look at it, it's like, that's probably overkill for such a small business and change. So planning board heard those, the staff heard those complaints, wrote some changes for what they call de minimis developments. So those needed to get workshopped in front of the planning board, get their opinion, so that could get put on the warrant. So they worked on that. They also worked on our shoreline zoning is different from the states, and it would make our town listers' life a lot easier if they were aligned. So the town had paid for a consultant to write some changes. They've workshopped that. That looks like that one won't actually be ready for this town meeting warrant because we need more mapping done, but it's almost ready. Now that's all done. Staff is ready to go back. The biggest issue now that will take a lot of input from everyone is the use table. And that was what was going to get brought to the planning board next. But now staff doesn't know what to do because essentially planning board said, or at least appears to have said, because it wasn't a noticed agenda item, but they're going to plan to have the same discussion on the 12th. If it comes out the same way, planning board's basically going to say, we don't want to go this route. So ultimately, you folks are the ones that direct the town. So the thought is now we bring it before you so that I guess your choices would be, you could either say, we want to scrap the whole effort, don't do any more in recode. You could say, we want you to not try to use the proposed recode. We want you to just, suggest a few things that you just, or the want switched and have planning board and CPIC work on those. Or the method that I think staff is going to recommend is that we continue this process. We spent over $100,000 on this. We've had a ton of public input on this. If you're someone that's not familiar with zoning codes, I think the new code is a much easier to read format. I also think that there are things that need to be still fixed in the new code. So we need the planning board to engage and work on that. I will personally commit that if you want to go ahead with trying to basically make this work and make sure our money was well spent, I'll go up to all the meetings. I'm not a zoning expert, don't play one on TV. But I hopefully maybe can help facilitate compromises and discussions so we can get something that benefits the whole town. So that's what you hear me say next week, but that's the thumbnail version.
I personally would like to see recode process through for 85%. I'd like to see it get to 100%. We're talking maybe available for the warrant next year, or maybe not quite.
We've stopped thinking about that.
Okay.
We're inching it along. And I really appreciate the town manager saying that he's got to be part of the process. That wouldn't be the first time, that he's attended some of our monthly meetings or workshops. There have been with, 3 different changes of planning director. There have been sometimes, and sometimes specifically to advise on an area where we're struggling. So, his role has been important throughout.
And so that we don't end up doing what we didn't want the planning board to do. You probably don't want to discuss too much how you want to move forward tonight. It's more, you've heard this public comment and then it's on your agenda and we probably noticed for your agenda for the next
On the
meeting.
19th,
Yep.
right? That's a great time to discuss it. Thank you for your input, appreciate it.
When's the next planning board meeting?
Yeah, Thursday, the 12th.
The 12th, okay. Make sure that's on the record.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none. Next item, correspondence. Did anyone receive anything the last 2 weeks? No? All right, next up, adjustments to the agenda. We do have an adjustment regarding the appointment of individuals to the Housing Authority. and to the Energy Committee, so we'll bring that up.
Okay,
Definitely.
we interviewed two people today. We interviewed Georgette Dion. She is an educator for more than 45 years. She has 15 years experience in administration. Her strong points are problem solving and she's highly organized, and we think that we should move forward with her. And Georgette's running for the Topsham Housing Authority. She is also a resident in apartment, so she's taking the tenant position. And then we had Carl Lozon. He is applying to be on the Energy Committee. He's worked in the HVAC field for 13 years. He has experience in energy efficiency, electrification, decarbonization, and other energy infrastructure and engineering. And so we also think that Carl Lozon would also be a good candidate to be on the Energy Committee. So any comments? I'll make a motion that we appoint Georgette Dion to the Topsham Housing Authority and Carl Lozon to the Energy Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, moved and seconded, all in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, the consent calendar. Approval of the minutes of the regular select board meeting held on February 19, 2026.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented from the February 19th, 2026 meeting.
Okay,
Second.
seconded, all in favor? Unanimous. Unfinished business, nothing this tonight. Old business, nothing. On to new business. 2620 has been withdrawn, so we will not be talking about that tonight. 2621, consideration and any appropriate action on the proposed RFP for engineering services for a transfer station improvements.
And we'll call up our Deputy Public Works Director, Josh Dennison, for his first official appearance.
That's right.
No pressure.
Like Mark said, new Deputy Director of Public Works. So yeah, we're looking to release an RFP to hire an engineering firm with expertise in transfer stations to evaluate our facility and develop an improvement plan with cost estimates. This at a minimum would include replacing our compactors, which are at end of life, and expanding the compost pad. We'd also like to add scales so that we can consistently weigh material coming in, going out, and track materials more consistently. And identify any additional upgrades that can improve safety, traffic flow, capacity, and recycling performance, especially with new EPR packaging laws coming online within the next year. The budget for this RFP was already approved, I think it was last May, at a town meeting.
So,
This was part of that 800,000 that was approved by the legislative body that you folks could direct as needed. There is some of that left, so that's where this money would come from.
Not going to cover that.
Yes, it should be actually more than enough for that. I hope.
anyone have any questions?
This is just permission to submit the RFP, but do you have maybe an anticipated idea of a roundabout number of what they might come in at?
I'd almost rather not give that because it's almost like giving our budget to the people who might
No,
be
that's
bidding.
good.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it's just an RFP.
and this, we'd still come back to you to accept it. So tonight was just
We got $500 for that, right?
we have 500 for it, dollars. Yeah. So
Great.
You ready for motion?
Yeah, motion would be great.
I make a motion to authorize the town manager to release the proposed RFP for solid waste facility improvement, conceptual design, and cost estimates.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Approved. Thank you. Good luck.
Get away.
Thank you, Josh. Wasn't that bad, was it? It gets easier, man.
Too bad.
All right, next up, 2622, consideration and any appropriate action on appointing a representative to the Mary Meeting Trail Board of Supervisors.
So the Mary Meeting Trail Board of Supervisors is the group that's been trying to facilitate the Lower Road turning into a, now, in the words of the legislature, a walking and bicycle trail. Select Board Member Nixon was on the committee as well as Victor Langelo. Good news is Victor's recovered enough that he's
That's good.
going to meetings again. But the Trail Board of Supervisors would like to have another member. They would either have a member of this board, or if you didn't want to be on it, if you'd want me to have a staff member, that would be fine. But they'd like to have someone that has, I guess, a good connection to the administration of the town so that things can get carried back and the planning can be assisted. So tonight, you're either, maybe one of you wants, or you want to appoint one of yourselves, or if none of you are interested in it, if you want to give me the authority to pick a staff member, that would be the next choice.
I would say, ask the select board, does anybody sitting here today want to serve on this committee, the Trail Board of Supervisors?
I think this would be a great place for one of the new guys to start.
Yeah,
You have some. What is that commitment?
I think they meet about probably monthly at most. Yeah, so it could be every 2 months.
I don't have a problem sitting in on that.
Probably a daytime meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, we'll take a motion.
I'd like to nominate Dave Kenny for the Merry Meeting Trail Board of Supervisors.
seconded,
All right. Been seconded, all in favor?
Attorney.
Yes, I had it right.
Congratulations.
Gonna make it quick.
All right, next up, 26-23, consideration and any appropriate action of the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget presentation for a joint meeting with the finance committee.
So next Tuesday, you're meeting with the finance committee to basically make your, not necessarily final, but pretty close to final on the budget. Finance committee met last Thursday. They had some more questions about the money for the natural areas plan, which they sent on to planning, and we've had answered and you've received. I think tonight, what you would want to be doing is if there's items you want to discuss amongst yourselves on the budget, so that you can take them to that joint meeting, either things you want cut, added, more questions, things like that.
So looking at this, we're really. Some of the big things to talk about were the a la carte items that we got presented at the end of the budget. That was a replacement police patrol dog, take home cruisers for the police department, contract administrative support for TDI, and a consultant to help with the Conservation Commission and natural areas plans. Those were the big ones that we were talking about whether or not we wanted to add into the budget. I think the other parts of the budget that are already existing, I don't know if we need to.
it turned out that they were actually in the budget. We thought 2 of them weren't, but they're all in the budget right now currently.
Yeah,
Not all.
The 4?
The money for the Conservation Commission, or the natural areas plan is not in the budget, but potentially if you directed that you wanted to spend some of the impact fee funds, we could do it without.
The open
Thanks,
space
budget.
funds?
Right.
The open space funds, okay.
The cruisers, doesn't really need the extra money this year, so it's more of a policy thing.
Mhm.
So your choices on that one would either be to say you want to wait and think about this more, or not make any decision on it since no money's needed for this year. Or you could say, we want to go ahead, and that would help him because as he basically plans next year's budget, figures how many cruisers to get and things. And the dog, the money for the purchase of the dog was in the budget. And in some ways, the overtime money for the officer, the total cost of the dog ends up being around 50 to 60,000. Because it's the purchase of the dog, but then it's all the training time and the feeding time of the dog, and that's all compensated basically that overtime,
And our current dog is 9 years old, is that correct?
or maybe 10.
Maybe 10? So he's really phasing out at this point,
Okay.
pretty close. So if we purchase the new dog, the old dog will become a pet to the owner, to the handler.
Right,
if he wants it.
right.
I mean, I
So
think
the police dog and the police cruisers, I believe those are in line items in the budget, is that correct? Right now?
Right. Yeah, the cruisers doesn't really need any money, so,
Replacement for one of them now is in there,
right,
but not to buy the liquor everybody.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're in with the cruisers, we're in a 2-1 cycle. We buy 2 one year and then we buy one the next year, then two,
But
then
then it
one.
will switch to 2
We're in the two this year.
Mhm,
So
anyway.
anyway, so we're already in the cycle of the possibility of take-home police cruisers. My feeling is that we don't need to approve anything on that tonight, just because it's already kind of trending in that direction. That would give us a little bit more time to have an in-depth conversation
Yeah,
or
I
talks
concur.
about it. So I think my opinion would be to just take that one off the list of discussions for now, just knowing that we're already in there. And
We're already
we can
at
easily
two
just say
this year.
yes, as Chief Hagan is planning for budgets next year, starting, that starts pretty soon. So, I think, I don't know, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think there's merit in having a policy established for this, just so that, I think that would help the chief as well.
The other thing the chief suggested is he could potentially do things without costing anything beyond this year's budget on a trial basis, say with the two sergeants, and see how that works for the year, how much, whether we're spending more money on, it going back and forth to their homes, or whether they're being better taken care of. So we're gonna have all the department heads here with you on Tuesday. So if you want, you could ask Chief Hagan to flesh out that idea more, so you can help make up your mind at that point
Yeah,
too.
yeah, sounds good. And the contract administrative support for TDI, that's gonna come out of the Mid-Coast Council of Government money?
So that money is definitely not currently in the budget. So that money is an eligible tip expense though. So it's
And what-
money we can shelter.
And it's 15 to 20,000?
Right. So what they would like to do with that money is to, as they develop their strategic plan, and things in that strategic plan might be something that you heard Kurt Neufeld come before you to talk about trying to get some engineering work for K&M Drive to plan that out so it could have the high pressure sewer line, the water addressed in it, and then leave us with a road that's acceptable that the town could then accept the road. So now we're getting one more piece of our connection for the other way to get across town without going on 196. If that becomes part of their strategic plan to try to make that happen, this could be some work in support of that. Another thing you may have noticed that when we had our TIF presentation for the three of you that were here last September, our TIF policy was written in 2000. So it probably could stand some professional expertise to go through it and then bring it back to you with some proposed changes. And then you vote on the policy. So the consultant wouldn't be writing and TDI doesn't set it, but they could come and make some recommendations too. That's another thing they could use the consultant for. The other thing they could use the consultant for is, I've tried to fill some of the role that our economic, as says the assistant town manager, some of the role our economic development director used to do with TDI, like I take their minutes and things. I coordinate their meetings. If a business calls and wants to ask questions about town, either myself or the assistant town manager will. One thing we would not do well is there might be a business saying, hey, can you tell me some loan programs that can help me expand or some grant things? The staff at Mid-Coast Council of Development is much better than that, because there's only so many hours in the day and I don't have time to get up to speed on all these programs. So that's something that can be contracted out. TDI has asked to have the former economic development director position reinstated on a number of times. I've told them that I can't in good faith put that in my budget that I present to you folks, just because I don't think we were getting, in essence, when you think of benefits, it was about $130,000 a year. I don't think we were getting $130,000 a year worth of benefit. And the two of us, I think, can cover most of the responsibilities. There are some of the things that I've just suggested that I think could be better done, say by the Mid-Coast Council of Governments. And we do have, I think we've been rejuvenating TDI. We've got a number of new and enthusiastic, energetic members. And you could look at that this is a way to help feel them that their time is well spent, and not feel like they have to do all the legwork for some of these things as volunteers on the board. So it's not in the budget, but that's an item that I think is merit to.
Now, when they were asking, what was the number that they're asking, 14,000?
They're asking for 20, but they may not end up spending all of that. What we would do is, after they finish their strategic plan, would identify specifically what are the items they want help for, and would contact Mid-Coast Council of Governments, see what their price for it would be and stuff.
had good luck with Mid Coast Council of Government in the past with asking them for help on stuff?
Absolutely. And in full disclosure, I'm now on their board of directors. Because it's a nonprofit that serves the communities basically from Brunswick up through Belfast. And the county pays our dues as part of the county budget. And we're entitled to a certain amount of hours. I think it's maybe like 10 or something a year just for our dues. And we had one of their planners that are on that helped us with the Pleasant Point Road stuff when we were working on that a year or so ago. When we had our TDI strategic planning meeting earlier this month, Mid-Coast Council of Governments helped find us a facilitator for it. And then Matt Eddy came in, who was the director and said in for it. They are anxious to help Topsham. I think we work well with them. And I think it's a much more cost efficient way to get TDI some of the services that they think they'd like to have to help benefit the town rather than us taking on a full-time position.
So.
Bill is taking all of this till Tuesday. We
Yeah.
can ask the department heads about any of this.
Absolutely. Yeah, anything, but if, let's say that you decided tonight, there's a line, there's a safe position you wanted to get rid of the assistant town manager. This is your, I don't want that to happen, but this is your chance to, kind of discuss amongst yourselves if there's things you want to bring, ways to either save money or there's something, you may say, you know what? I really want more money in the paving budget or something. And so the purpose of tonight is to have you come up, if you have any topics you want to bring to the joint meeting, give you a chance to have those discussions.
I would say holistically about the budget that was presented to us. I'm 100% okay with it, as it was to us. To me, the conversation is really revolving around these other items. Does anybody feel differently about that? Do we need to talk about the budget in detail or any line items that anybody had any queries on that we wanted to scratch out or add?
I agree with you on that. I'm just, the question on the police cars. You say you want to do it with 2 sergeants next year. That mean we're not gonna trade in 2 cars? How do you relate the vehicle to do that with? We're buying 2, we're supposed to be trading in 2.
Yep.
We're keeping 2.
So you have financial.
And didn't you say you wanted to keep some of them for take homes?
Let's let him have it address that Tuesday.
Yeah, we should.
That's the one.
I think
Back of a trailer.
for me,
But I'm not even sure he's keeping.
I'm in support of the contract for TDI.
Yeah.
Because I think they do offer a lot to us, and I agree with Town Manager Waltz that there's more that they can do if they had more services, and that's a minimal ask considering what we're hoping to get in return for that, especially if we're not hiring another economic developer. I think that gives us a better ROI. I'm also in favor of the last piece with the consultant to help with the Conservation Commission and the Natural Areas Plan. The two that I'm just listing these out so we can have a discussion if anybody disagrees or agrees. The replacement patrol dog, I'm still a question mark on. I really don't know. I don't have an opinion either way, yes or no. And the take home police cruisers, I felt my stance would stay the same from what I did before, but this is our time to have discussions. We don't get a chance to come around, so it's worthy of us pointing out and talking about these, even if it has to go in depth for a hot minute. But
I'm really leaning toward replacing the police patrol dog, only even though it is a little more costly for the training. Because it's not fair to take a 10-year-old dog and expect her to be this is not the comfort dog. This is we're gonna go find people dog, to just be in a place where, it's gonna be top notch, because the dog won't be ready for at least a year, right? It won't be trained for at least a year, or is it 2 years?
It's all.
Yeah.
So this dog is already 10. If we delay getting another dog, then this dog's gonna keep working until the other dog is trained and ready to hit the road. And so I think that that's something we can't really wait on. That's my opinion. I just wanted to share that.
and the other option would be to think about, and I hate doing this, but when we're talking about finances, take that human or animal connection out of the equation and think police cruisers, could that decision become easier if we had only could choose one? Because we're not really adding to the budget if we're doing a replacement police dog because we already paid for it. We've been doing that in our budget for years. If we didn't replace it, it would be a cost savings. And if we're looking at take-home police cruisers, do they wash out? Or do we just add everything in? Again, I think it's worthy of discussion of what everybody's thoughts are.
I concur with that. I'm adamantly for the K-9 program. I will not speak against it at
So
all.
one of the things we're not thinking about with the K-9 program is that our dog, our 10-year-old dog now, is used by other police forces. Our people go out there, if they've lost somebody, they need to do a search for someone in Bodenham or Augusta. We offer that service to other communities, and so it's a way for us to connect and partner with other towns
Well, it's also part of mutual aid.
mutually.
But the police dog is not just search and rescue dog.
Right.
He's a drug dog, the attack dog, a UGB, big phone down, chase dog.
Now I'm
We
trying to
have,
get that
we
dog.
have two search dogs. Don't forget Nikki has a search dog.
We have two
Fire,
dogs.
Yeah, the deputy fire chief has a dog that does search dog. And actually, if you're looking for a person that's not a criminal, you probably use her dog.
Yes.
So we do have two dogs.
But that's something we don't fund though. I don't believe we're funding hers, are we?
No, we're not having to pay her overtime.
No, we're talking about one dog that we fund.
Yeah, the police
Well,
dog.
no,
Garber too.
You're supporting,
Yeah, Garver, yeah.
you're supporting that dog. She hasn't asked for, for the police dog, we pay an hour of overtime every day to feed it. And we pay for all the training time. Nikki does the training on her own time. So the only expense we've really had for her dog is some modifications to her vehicle for it. Sure.
The time we were called out.
Right.
For mileage and stuff.
Yep.
But the police dog, definitely, it's not just search and rescue, it's everything.
So it sounds like the vast majority, I'm just an undecided. I'm listening to you guys. I could be very easily swayed to that direction. And it sounds like the four of you guys are pretty adamant about the police dog being kept in, and I would concur with you guys if that's how you guys felt.
I think the police chief did an excellent job in defending the reason for having this animal, because again, you know, someone says cost savings, but then you have to look at the opportunity cost.
Yeah.
And I think we've been well served, and again, it's the whole region has actually benefited from it as well. So it's you know, it's mutual aid, and you know, what comes this way goes that way.
Yeah.
With regard to the police cruisers, that particular line item, the take-home police cruisers, I'd like to know from the chief if he's planning to keep the two vehicles or he's planning to trade them both in. Do you know what the answer is to that?
I think because the ones that are ready to go this year are in such bad condition, I think he's planning to trade them both in.
Okay,
I think he was planning to do the test program with cars we already had, because some of we have.
and the
some
test
vehicles.
program will be the supervisors.
And I'd say that we should let him address that Tuesday, because he
Okay.
could give a lot more detail than.
Okay.
So.
Okay, I don't have anything else to add.
Would- Just as a way to gauge where the board stands, do you guys feel like you would be voting yes on take-home police cruisers at this moment without that information, or no?
I'd like more information among the benefits.
I'd like a little bit more on that
Mhm,
before I
that's awesome.
commit one way or the other.
So that's gonna require, I feel like, some additional conversation next Tuesday. Because I'm also wondering what the finance committee feels like, and if they say no, we say yes, what happens?
I mean, it's almost like a trial. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So
It's right.
you're
but
endorsing
we'll-
a trial.
We're gonna have to commit to it for a few years because it'll stagger itself in. We're not really gonna be buying all the cars all in 1 year. It's just
Correct.
two in a cycle, two until we get enough. And I feel like maybe that will be the cycle. It's just,
One of my concerns with taking, I think it's a good benefit. Is it a thing that can be used for recruitment, retainment? I don't know. I wouldn't think that it's that big of a deal, but my concern would be if an officer takes a cruiser home, is that cruiser secure when it's not here in a lot with cameras and it's being supervised, patrolled? It's now sitting someplace, and that would be a concern of it being 30 miles from here.
Yeah, that's why you have to have a policy about it.
We have to have some steadfast.
No different than state police taking their cars home. There's one of.
Right, it's just something new for us that we.
It's actually.
Right.
We don't require him, I know the state requires a homeowner for camera car.
No, I just,
So it's just, no different than that.
it's things we're gonna hear, that's all.
I think
We
that-
have the answer.
Yeah.
And the conversation is directed around that. I think those are brilliant ways to put it. The hard thing that I've heard so many times that hasn't come true is our hope is by doing this, we're going to amount to X. And that hope, in my experience here, typically hasn't really panned out. And I'll give you an example of that with negotiations of the police union and bumping their salaries by quite a bit. The hope was that it was going to benefit recruitment and we were going to all of a sudden fill the ranks over here, not having more openings, but we still have openings. And if we hear the same thing again, oh, but this is going to bump our recruitment, is it? I mean, these are hopes, but I mean, we have to eliminate that idea for a minute and really think about the benefit. How does this benefit our town? How does this benefit the safety of our town? How does this benefit us financially, if it does at all, or if it's going to cost more? Or is it really just about recruitment? Is that the only reason we're doing it? Because I'm not sure if that's a good reason to promote take-home cruisers. Although Chief Hagan does say he thinks over time, there's an initial cost of it, but over time, he does think that there will be a reduction in budgeting. Because there's going to be less maintenance on the cars, less mileage, you won't have to turn them in every year. It'll just be getting to that point. And we just have to recognize that we started the next 3 or 4 years, our budget's already going to be that much higher. And we just have to accept that. That's something that we will have to justify and explain to the taxpayer.
Anything else?
Well, the last thing was, it seems like we're all in support of the police dog. Seems like we have questions about the take-home cruisers still. Correct me if I'm wrong, but were we fairly in support of the contract administrative support for TEI?
I was a little confused. You were using terms consultant and they're looking for, what was
Administrative support, and same thing.
support, same thing.
It's from,
Consultants with TDS.
Okay.
Some planners that are basically.
I think that's.
and the TEI was looking to work with the Mid-Coast Council of Governments. And so if we think that, then that's good. The last item would be the consultant to help with the Conservation Commission Natural Areas Plan. I sat in on the Conservation Commission's last meeting earlier this week. Then they had talked about it. I was personally on the fence about whether or not any of these were gonna fly, but after kind of going through it, the reason for it really kind of stood out, and it was accented because part of the reason they want to do redo the plan, it was done 15 years ago, but now by doing it new, a lot has changed in the past 15 years as far as our land goes. And what the natural areas plan will provide is it'll highlight areas that are of high interest to conservation or open areas for future development. And just so happens that we have one of those things happening right now with Meadow Cross Road of development that's going through the planning process right now, where they're trying to give open areas and, have the development a little bit smaller. By having an updated natural areas plan, it's going to allow them to make better decisions, and we do need their blessing on a lot of these things that are coming forward. So I'm in favor of it. I think it's a good idea, especially with how much our town has changed, and how much everything is changing forward right from now. I did read their report and it looked like a total of $40,000 to $50,000. However, that wasn't necessarily what they're asking from us. They're going to also seek funding from other grants. They did list a few grants in the packet that they had sent out. My only question is, I don't know how much they're really looking from the town.
So their request was for 10 for the initial consultant to maybe help them with the grants and also help them with some of the planning. If you decide, and this decision may be more you than the finance committee, but if you decided something that you'd be willing, or you think is appropriate for the impact fees, we can put an article on the town meeting warrant that allows us to spend whatever amount you want, up to whatever amount the impact fee, say at the select board's discretion. So if we put 10, it means they can't spend more, I think the fund has maybe 60 in it right now, ballpark. They couldn't spend more than 10 next year. If you put 40, say at the select board's discretion, then up to 40 could be spent from that. But the way the fund is written, they get put in from the developments, but you would need to get, so basically town meeting approval to actually spend it. So if you and the finance committee decide it's a good idea and you want to take it from that, we would put a separate warrant article in to allow the select board to authorize up to whatever amount you want to be spent from that impact fee. Had an interesting discussion with, I'm trying to think of who it was, someone about impact fees recently. And they were saying how some states, they're now starting to question legally these impact fees that people collect and never use. Because they said if it supposedly was so important that you needed this impact fee, then how come you're not using it? And I guess New Hampshire, they said, is really cracking down on that. And they pretty much, if you're taking an impact fee, it needs to be spent within a certain amount of time. So we have that 60 sitting there, you know, and if I put my community center hat on, I might say that's something else. Another allowed use for that might not just be open space, but to use it for recreation, such as a community center. But without that hat on, certainly this, if you're looking for, you think this is a meritorious thing and you're looking to void or fund it, that's a great place to do it, because now you spend some of that impact fee, so we don't have an impact fee sitting around not being used.
I'm just doing some calculations over here about police cruisers.
I'm sold with the impact fee thing. Like, great idea. You spend money,
So-
there, you can-
So we're doing one and then we're doing two every other year already. So we're looking at each police cruiser, it costs $50,000 for the base and $15,000 to equip it with all the lights and everything else. So it's $65,000. So, Chief Hagan said we have 12 cars now and we need 18 to maintain for everyone. And so we're looking at like 6 more cars, or well, 2 cars have to go out. 2 cars are gonna go out. So we'll need 8 cars over the next 5 years, which is then 520,000 over 5 years. So you take the 520,000 and divide that by 5, and then we're looking at $104,000 a year, which is almost, you know, less than 2 cruisers. Because 1 cruiser is 65, so it'd be 130.
Plus inflation.
Plus inflation, yeah. So it's not that outrageous. See if it works. If it doesn't work and it doesn't keep recruitment, there's nothing that says we can't sell these cruisers.
Or just keep them for longer,
Or just
to realize the investment would have,
Wouldn't have to replace it.
Right.
just replace, maybe for the next 8 years after that, we only do 1 cruiser a year. And just get them
Right.
through the rotation, so
Correct.
I do think it's on the right trajectory. And I have full faith and trust in Chief Hagan and his math and trying to figure out what's best for that department.
Yeah.
And if he says long-term, then, you know, I think that's kind of a good thing, because now we have someone that has a little bit of a vision for the future, the long-term future, more so than just budget to budget every year to year. And we're at a place in this town where we could really use a vision, so.
And maybe we can, in the rollout, maybe we can, like this year, if they're gonna try and, right now, a police chief and a lieutenant are the only ones that have a permanent car.
The detectives,
Canine.
Oh, the
and the
detective,
canine,
Oh.
and the school resource officer.
how many canines?
But
2 vehicles?
One
That's
vehicle, K9.
that school resource officer, I think, is this.
is a second canine
It's
because
inside
the
the car.
screen.
No, I don't think her car is the screen, but she's
Oh, okay.
inside the car.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars that are assigned. So if we add the sergeants this year, that would be 2 more. And then if we rolled it out to the next year, we could do, who else would be missing? We have animal control, we have canine. So who else? It would just be the patrol officers after that?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
I think there was a mileage restriction in there too, right? They wouldn't be able to take it longer than, was it 30 miles, or wasn't there?
Is it-
Part
the
of
chief has a
they would
proposed
say,
policy
yeah,
that-
so if you happen to live, it wouldn't apply to you, you wouldn't have that benefit.
Right.
My understanding.
If you live that far out.
Right.
And he can address all that on Tuesday.
So are we
Are we,
Has everybody had enough to discuss?
I think the last thing is just a kind of a gauge on the consultant for the Conservation Commission, sorry, my brain stopped working for a second, but just general thoughts on how we align or don't align before we get together with the board. Does it, anybody have any feelings towards the consultant fees for the natural areas plan?
I think the timing's good. I mean, it sounds like what we have now is outdated and.
It is, and I mean, we're also a few years away from doing a comp plan again, because don't we have to do that
2020.
Oh, 20.
Is there 10,000 on the town meeting article from before?
10,000 was the initial ask that I put on the a la carte list, because that's what they were asking for. The total cost may be more like
73,000.
if they can't get grants. No, I don't think it's gonna be 73.
Okay, between 50 and 60, you think, or less?
If they didn't get grants, could be 40, 50, 60.
Chris Dwinell is also here, there. Do we want to see if he has anything to add to that?
Well, look, Jeff can promote him if he's willing.
Would
Can you guys hear me?
Comments?
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. I'm Chris Dwinell, the treasurer of the Topsham Conservation Commission. I actually was a member of the original planning committee that was formed to develop the original natural areas plan, which was finalized in 2010. So it is about 16 years old at this point. It is something that the 2019 comprehensive plan recommended an update to that. So 2019. So that's already 7 years that have gone by since that was recommended. We've done a lot of yeoman's work. We ourselves, we're planning to rewrite the plan ourselves, but we really need consultants to be able to help us with some of the GIS mapping related work. We actually got a lot of assistance from Bowdoin students last summer. We actually had a whole class work on gathering a lot of maps for us, but they were only limited in what they could do. So we have a really good head start on that. But we really need a consultant that works in this area a lot to help us with generating updates to the maps, looking at how trends and how things have changed in Topsham in the past 15 years, and look to take some of what the Topsham community, what the residents think is important, and work those into the maps to help us better identify those areas that are worthwhile looking at for conservation, or not just conservation, but areas that are worth looking at for open space subdivisions, and developing rules that work well with developers. You know, what do the developers want? What's appeals to them? What can we make work as partners between us and the developers out there? So we really need some help with that mapping. I think I was encouraged to hear that the open space fee in lieu funds could be used toward this purpose. We had assessed that internally and thought that they could, and we're happy to hear that Mark and others have determined that it could be used for that purpose. We did put together estimates for this, but they're about 5 years old at this time. I think if we were to issue an RFP, we would probably want to issue an RFP with some a la carte items. That's a term that's been used tonight, so that we can kind of pick and choose and try to work within the budget we have to get the most possible from the funds that we have. But we're going to do as much as we can to rewrite and update the plan really ourselves, but we really do need the consultant support for that. And we're kind of excited about some of the things that are going on currently with a couple of developments that are being proposed. We just want to make sure that we are up to speed with things that are changing in our community. You know, climate action, that's not something that was addressed 15 years ago or really even thought about. So there's important parts there that need to be incorporated into our plan to help us look toward the future. So I'm here with any questions.
No, thank you. That was a lot of clarity, Chris, and I think that's very helpful. I'm still in favor. I think it sounds like we're kind of leaning towards adding everything in.
That would lead to, like you said, go forward with the finance committee, but also take the funds out of the impact fees, pay for it, have the warrant article written to do that.
Yeah.
That way it wouldn't increase our tax by $10,000.
Right.
It's already there. And there's more money funds there in case we did. But like I said, it's been several years, so your prices and more likely have gone up.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I'd lean for, pass this to give it to them, but also have the town manager go out with some wording for the warrant. For town meeting, spend that money for that. That's what I would lean for.
Agree.
So it sounds, we pretty much align on three of the items. The only one is to take home police cruisers. We'll get some questions next Tuesday and figure out what we want to do in that.
That's good.
You have anything that your thoughts that we're missing, Mark?
No, covered it all.
Any comments on the library budget?
Oh.
We don't have time tonight.
Okay,
Great. All right. 26-24 executive session. I think I'll read it off. So move that we go into executive session pursuant to Title I MRSA Section 4056A to discuss personnel matters.
we're talking about the budget.
Move it, well, you read it, what I'm saying.
Yeah, you moved.
Yeah, you read it to move, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
Move it.
Okay, all in favor?
Favor, executive session?
Executive session. All right. For executive session. You're free to leave. Yes, thank you very much.